I forgot to hit the record. So now it's being recorded and it will be uploaded to the Minitex YouTube channel, and a follow-up email will go up after that once the transcription is completed. You'll probably see my cat. So here, I want to introduce our presenter, Cynthia Tu. She works as a journalist for the Sahan Journal in Minnesota. She is the author of the piece, How Sahan Journal Used AI Tools to Identify $132 million in Minnesota charter school spending. Today, she'll be talking about a data analysis tool named Pinpoint. For moderators, I'm Kyle Triska. I work in resource sharing at Minitex. Sarah Ring is our other moderator, also from Minitex, who is a continuing education librarian. She'll be helping by moderating the chat and helping with questions. And with that short introduction, I will pass it over to Cynthia to start.
Thank you, Kyle. Hi, everyone. My name is Cynthia Tu. I'm a data reporter and an AI specialist at Sahan Journal. We're a nonprofit newsroom based in St. Paul, Minnesota, and we cover communities of color and immigrants within the state of Minnesota. And let me share my screen here with you guys. All right. So I'll be talking about how I use this tool called Google Pinpoint to conduct data analysis for our newsroom. And I'm hoping that this would be helpful for librarians as well, because when I was invited to do this panel workshop, I learned a lot about what librarians do, which I've never tapped my toes in before. So yeah, excuse me. So this is a screenshot of our website for those of you who've never heard of us. And yeah, Google Pinpoint is a data analysis tool, or I guess a document collection analysis tool that I recently discovered earlier this year. And our newsroom has been using this tool for a while now to assist our reporting. This is, excuse me, oops. So this is what the tool looks like. This tool is designed for journalists, but I believe that you can also sign up and access. And these are the features that Pinpoint offers. For instance, you can upload thousands of documents and then work within those documents as a collection. You can also use this tool to transcribe and search through audio and video files. You can transform similarly structured tables into several spreadsheets, which is something that I will be demoing today. And a cool feature is that you can collaborate with your colleagues, and it basically just works like a Google Slide, Google Doc, if you're familiar with Google's suite products. And yeah, Pinpoint supports lots of different formats for files. For instance, you can upload PDFs, PowerPoint. You can also upload audios, and then the tool will automatically transcribe those files for you. And a cool feature is that as it transcribes audio and also videos for you, you can search through the collection across different formats. Yeah, so one of the fun features of the tool is you can do keyword search within the documents, and it's kind of like how you would search for stuff on Google itself. So you can use quotation marks to search for specific words, and it will also conduct semantic search. So if you get rid of the quotation marks, it can search for words that are synonym of your keywords. So for instance, I have an example here. If you search for the word moon with quotation marks, it will return exact matches. But then if you get rid of the marks, quotation marks, you might get results with words such as Luna or something similar to that. And you can also use the minus sign to exclude any word that you're not interested in. also you can use keyword or, I believe it's all caps, or use the pipe symbol to search either or two phrases that you're interested in. Yeah, and the feature that I use the most with Pinpoint is actually using it to extract data from PDFs. And I'm talking about structured data. Oops, sorry. Should be able to, okay. So what does this look like? Here I have a collection of dummy data files. And everything is put neatly in this one collection called mini text demo. You can also upload different, I only have one type of format here, which is PDFs, but you can obviously upload different like .doc files or audios, and you can work with all those files in this one collection. And I'm just going to show you what these look like. So here we have 10 different reports for different countries, and we have some interesting facts about those countries. And what the task that I want to do here is to be able to extract data that I'm interested in and put that into a spreadsheet so I can perform data analysis on those using Excel or Google Sheets. So what I would do is I would click on extract structured data over here. And as you can see here, a lot of these reports, they kind of follow the same structure, but the length of these tables might be different. Normally, before I start using these tools, I might drag them into an OCR tool, or I would write some code to kind of tabulate those. But for folks who might not have experience coding or using those OCR tools, Google Pinpoint would serve as a really useful assistant for you. So there are a few features up here. First, we have key and value match. So for instance, we want to grab all the names of the countries from all these reports. So what I would do here is simply highlight the value that I'm interested in. And it would automatically look for the key for this value. And down here, you can see it has auto-generated preview tab for every value that it's grabbing from all the rest of the documents within this collection. So if I'm interested in government type here, I'll just simply drag a box over here, and it seems like it's a little confused, but I'll just have to drag the key box down here. And then if we look at the preview over here, you can see that everything's being neatly placed. And yeah, sometimes in those reports, we might come across tables that look like this, and we want to turn those into a spreadsheet. And Google Pinpoint is very useful when we come across that. So all we have to do is simply highlight the area of the table. Oops. And you can see that the table actually span across two different pages, and you can drag, oops, sorry, I don't have my mouse with me, so I'm kind of, it's a little finicky, okay. So I'm selecting this table over here, and you can see that Pinpoint has already figured out what the header of this table is, and kind of separate the columns for you. And I'll give this table a name, cities. There are also advanced options right here, so you can change how you want to define the row boundaries. You can also, if the table doesn't include a header, you can get rid of that as well. So I'm just going to click on Save Table here. And in the preview tab, we already have this separate sheet that gives you all the information that's selected across these documents. And for this example, I only have 10 reports, but obviously you can upload thousands of reports, and then all you have to do is customize the information you want to grab from this one sample file, which is called a golden document, and then everything would get tabulated within the snap of a finger like this. And here's another examples. At times in the reports, we might come across sections that look like this. So these are what's called repeated sections. And if we want to gather information from these little tables and put them into one spreadsheet, what I can do here is I can highlight one section, which is the golden section for this, the golden table for this entire section. And then you can see this is colored in purple, and the orange box is where the rest of the table would go. So I just drag this all to the end of the section, give it a name, save sections. And you might notice that nothing's being generated down here in the preview tab. That's because we haven't done anything to the golden section here. So what I'm gonna do next is the same as what I did first for the key and value search. And I'm simply grabbing every value that I want for my spreadsheet, grabbing everything here. And you can see that it's automatically identifying the key for each value that I selected. And I will also leave some more room for the value here, just in case some of the values might run outside of the box boundary. And yeah, let's go down and check the preview tag, and you can see that everything's being tabulated here. And I could also click on those different PDFs just to do a quick sanity check, see if everything's being grabbed the way I want it, and go back. And once I've customized all the information I want to get from the collection, simply click on extract and download what you have. And excuse my messy desktop. And I have this folder called my next demo. And yeah, you can see that everything's neatly tabulated within these spreadsheets. And then you can conduct data analysis the way you want in an Excel file, or you can also upload it on Google spreadsheet if you prefer that. And I think what's really cool about this tool is that you can fact check your information as it provides this validation link. So if you have questions about any of the values that you want to double check, you can click on the link here and it will take you right back to Google Pinpoint to its original document, and then you'll be able to check if everything was correct.
Cynthia, we weren't able to see the downloaded things because I think it's sharing just the browser.
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop my share here and then reshare.
Sure.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So let me just show you guys what it looks like. So I got this zip file over here, and then I unzip it, and there are 3 CSV files. I open them up, and these are information that I got from Google Pinpoint. And this is the validation link that I was talking about here. Yeah, so before this tool, I will have to spend maybe an hour or so if I'm working through different documents. And that's with, like my coding skills. So with Google Pinpoint, you can see that everything's being automated for you. All you have to do is to learn about what these different functions mean, and then everything's code-free. It's very easy. And I also have a tutorial video, which basically goes through the same thing that I talked about for you guys. And this slide will be shared after the presentation as well, so you guys can have access to that. Yeah. So what type of projects have Sahan done with Pinpoint? So back in May, we published this article about a legal loophole that allows Minnesota charter schools to award $132 million in contracts without following state's oversight. And we got the tip that one of the charter schools in Minnesota has awarded obscure contracts to their contracts and through nepotism. But we want to know that if this is a widespread issue. And what we did, and also kind of identify how much taxpayer money were being awarded through these contracts without state oversight. What I did was I scraped 180 text documents, 990 forms from the IRS website, and then I upload everything into Google Pinpoint, and I did what I just showed you guys, and I was able to get a spreadsheet that has every single contract being awarded through 180 charter schools in the state, and then get a sum number, and also I was able to see the categories of these different contracts. We also, besides the main narrative article, we also published this inside Sahan Journal, which is a methodology post, kind of explaining what the story is, why we thought using an AI tool would help us in this process. We kind of talk about the guardrails that we put in place there, if we telling folks that we did spot check for these, and also being transparent about its limitation and how we calculate everything. Yeah, so we've been using Pinpoint for other reporting projects as well, but this is one of the biggest investigation that we're able to do with the help of this tool. Oops. Okay, so that's the article. We also have a something newsletter that we send out to all our subscribers. And this is kind of like a behind the scene, how we reported our story type of engagement content here. So we talked about our process and talk about using AI tools in our reporting, because I know that a lot of our readers or just the general public have a lot of skepticism around the use of AI, especially in journalism. And being transparent about the use of AI tools in our reporting, and by transparency, I don't mean that we should just talk about, oh, we use AI, but the fact that we were very explicit about the process, and also our thought process of using this tool. These are things that I think is very important to educate our readers and help folks understand how we can harness the power of AI to do journalism. Yeah. And I'll stop sharing here, and that concludes my presentation.
Wow, thanks, Cynthia. That was really interesting. We can open up the floor to questions now, if anybody has any.
Yeah, so we have a couple, so please put your questions in the chat now, and we'll get to them. I think we have plenty of time today for questions and discussion. So Cynthia, the first question is, it was related to your demo. So do all the different PDFs need to be in the same format for it to pull the information from each?
So they all have to follow a similar structure. You can probably see from the demo there that some of the table, even though they are included same sort of information, they have different lengths. So Pinpoint was able to handle that and then identify the boundaries of different sections within these documents. But you would, in order to conduct the data extraction, you will have to have a collection of documents that follows this similar structure.
All right, thank you. Are most of these PDFs from major agencies or organizations?
It really depends. So you can upload anything that you want. Something that's really cool that I found when using this tool is that it can actually kind of what's the word, OCR handwritten notes. So if you have a collection of, folks' writings, like a comment that they sent to a library, I'm giving an example here. You can use that to put those handwriting into text and then do keyword search within the collection.
Great, we've got a couple more coming through here. Can Pinpoint also be used for scraping web pages?
Unfortunately not. So I know I talked about scraping tax documents from the IRS, and that's outside of Pinpoint, but there are a few web scraping tools out there that doesn't require coding. And I also believe that there are folks who use ChatGPT to help them write codes to scrape websites. So I know we don't have time to talk about that here, but there are different resources out there for that.
All right, and a comment and a question. Thanks for sharing. I'm curious if Sahan Journal has internal guidelines about what kinds of documents you upload for a tool like this. I'm thinking of Google's terms of service for Pinpoint, which says, quote, you give Google permission to use that content, ... end quote.
That is definitely a great question. We're actually in the process of developing an AI policy, both internally and externally, and we'll publish that on our website. It's kind of like an ethical guideline for how we use our AI tools. Kind of the sneak peek, we encourage folks to experiment with different AI tools because, I mean, my job description is using kind of finding AI solutions for different departments, but we do recognize that there are a lot of uncertainty within the AI industry and also privacy concerns, also hallucination. I don't know if that's the word that folks have been talking about in this series, but it's basically AI making up information when it doesn't have the fact to support that. And we are very conscious of that. So we do lots of trainings within the organization. We have workshops where people would sit down together and explore a tool like Pinpoint or some other AI tools together so we can all learn its limitation and power. Yeah, so I would say that every time when we do use an AI tool and for our public facing content, we will always make sure that our readers know that AI is involved in this reporting. And we always treat any content that's spit out from the AI tool as a human. So we always fact check, verify it by a human journalist for any content that's being spit out. And also when I'm using Pinpoint, I always do a spot check to make sure that everything is accurate. Yeah, I think I answered the question, or is there two questions in one? Oh, about, sorry, terms of services. So we do try to read those terms, and there are a few guardrails that we put around AI companies grabbing your data to train their models. So we make sure that for any confidential information, we make sure to do not upload that into an AI tool. And yeah, and we have this partnership with OpenAI, so we get free tokens from ChatGPT. But obviously, we're not going to put any confidential names, sources, contact information, or any documents provided by them. We always make sure that we put publicly available documents into this tool. So, yeah.
Thank you. We have some more time for questions if there are any others out there.
I have one. I was just wondering, is this the main the charter schools, is that the main use you've used Pinpoint for, or has there been other cases where it's been used as well?
Yeah, there has been this other story that didn't end up being published, but we were looking at I believe it's a housing facility in Minneapolis, and we requested emails, communication from the city council and the mayor's office, kind of looking at how they handle the situation, because there was an allegation being made about the housing service kind of discriminate the residents based on income and also race. And we got the data back from our data request, and it's bunch of emails kind of put in a not chronological order. So sometimes you won't be able to tell which emails you're responding to which. So we upload everything into Pinpoint, and we have a few like key dates that we're interested, and also folks who are involved in this operation. So we use Pinpoint to do keyword search and also some semantic search to figure out kind of piece together a timeline for how the city kind of plays a part in this housing service. So yeah, I would say that's another use case that's not specifically a very data-driven project, but more so we're using Pinpoint to do some information search.
All right, we had another question come in. Can Pinpoint extract metadata such as properties of a batch of PDFs?
I don't believe so. I think it's only the content within those PDFs.
All right. Any final questions for, oh, we had one come in. Great. So with respect to Google or OpenAI or Claude, etc., which entities' tools have you found to be more useful for your research? Who is the most relevant for your purposes right now?
That is a great question. AI keeps evolving, so it's kind of hard to keep on tabs of all the recent developments, because there's like different releases of models that gets rolled out every month or so. I would say that, and also for disclosure, we received this grant that sponsored my position through American Journalism Project, and they have a partnership with OpenAI, and that's why we get free tokens from them. So I have been using ChatGPT a lot, but that's not because I believe that their products is the best. We don't have like any sort of agreement or limitation that we can only use this tool. I use that because we got free tokens. I have it with Claude, also Perplexity. I would say that Claude and Perplexity are better at doing real-time event search. So as some of y'all might know, that ChatGPT is not plugged into the internet, and its training data is somewhere back in time, so it doesn't have the most relevant information. It can do some sort of website search, but personally, when I'm using ChatGPT for research, I found it to be less reliable compared to the other chatbots out there when it comes to grabbing information. I do use ChatGPT to develop some internal tools for our teams here I don't know if some of y'all know that ChatGPT has a custom GPT thing that you can play around with. Basically, you can develop your own task-specific assistants, and you write a prompt for this chatbot, and then instead of how you would regularly, how you would interact with ChatGPT, it would remember this prompt and then perform this task every time without having to put in the starting prompt. So I've been using that to automate some of the tasks. For instance, we have this Sahan Journal article summarizer built with a custom GPT, and we put in some guardrails around here. Like, for instance, please make sure that you don't make up any information. And also, when you quote someone, please stick to your original quote as presented in the original article. Yeah, so we have been using that to help our digital producer to summarize articles and then use that as the starting point to produce some social media content. We do not use any AI tools to do write our articles, or it wouldn't be used as a primary source of information for reporting. But we do use that to automate some of the tasks that are rather repetitive. And yeah, so I would say I mostly use ChatGPT and custom GPT to perform tasks.
Thanks, Cynthia. A couple more questions came in. Hi, I'm curious how you would have gone about doing your work without the use of Google Pinpoint during the old days.
Right. So I come from a programming background, so I know R, Python, a few programming languages. And before then, I would open up my Python code, and then I will have to write a script that basically extract everything. And also, I would have to really look at the document that I'm trying to extract information from and be familiar with this, so I know what I'm writing when I'm writing those codes. And also, there's tons of debugging, because sometimes you might have some encoding issue with your documents, or sometimes there might be, I don't know, like they might not be structured in a way that Python's able to handle. So I would spend a few hours probably to code, to write a script to be able to form that. But with Pinpoint, it is so easy, and I was able to kind of hand off those tasks to our individual reporters, because they don't have to know how to code to do these OCR and information collection. So that really helped me free up a lot of tasks on my plate.
Great. And how is it used for transcription?
It's pretty easy. You can just upload audio or video files, and it would automatically generate a transcript that's attached to the file.
Right, you have a nice comment, and I'll do one more call for questions, but you had a comment that, thank you very much. Great job presenting, explaining your process. Any final
Thank you.
questions for
I appreciate
Cynthia?
that.
All right, I'll turn it back over to Kyle then.
Sure, yeah. All right, and so yeah, just so that's the end of that. Well, wrap up here with a few things. So here are our next sessions in this series. There's a link on that page, and I will enter that into chat there, so you can see the ones that are upcoming. And then if you have time, we have a survey you can complete. You can tell us how you felt with the presentation and give us ideas of other future topics that are interesting to you. And here is the link to that as well. And that's it. I want to thank Cynthia again for coming and presenting. just a great presentation. And thanks everybody for coming. Thanks again, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.